Hi Blues, welcome back to Blue Moon Rising TV. It's the big one. It's Real Madrid against Manchester City at the Bernabeu. One of the biggest games in Manchester City's history. Before we do anything else, if you're new to the channel, if you just happen to be searched on YouTube for this content, give us a subscribe because we'd love one of those. More subscriptions means more videos, means a big smile on Walter and Alex's faces. So, guys, how are we feeling for the return leg? 0-0, let's kick it off. Are we happy with the 0-0 to take to Madrid? Walter?
Yeah, you got me happy. I mean, the thing is, the most important thing for me was they didn't score. They didn't get that crucial away goal. And we're still in this tie. If we get one early goal, the cat is truly in amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, that an away goal now would be enormous, wouldn't it, Alex?
Oh, yeah, huge. That's the job, isn't it? First 15 minutes, I'd love an away goal. Certainly take that. But it's a mammoth fixture, huge occasion, and the nerves are already setting in, and it's only Monday morning for me. So hopefully we'll keep it all together. And you know what? This season in the Champions League, we have seen more assured as a team. And putting Southampton's result to one side, the last few weeks we have looked a little bit more Champions League quality. Like, we are worthy of these big games. You know, and I was worried we might bottle it, we might panic, and we might, just keel over to Real Madrid in the first leg a little bit. And we turned up, and I think for the first half we were the better side against the Real Madrid team, if such a thing I can get away with saying. So you know what, I reckon we can go to the Bernabeu, and it's not against the realms of possibility that Cheeky Navas run up the wing over to Aguero. You might see an early goal. Maybe I'm in dreamland, who knows.
You just said about putting the Southampton result to one side. I'm just going to take that back, put it back in the middle, on the middle of the table. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, as much as it hurts, get it out of the way. So we were walloped by Southampton at the weekend, we've got to say. Let's get into that a little bit. First of all, Pellegrini had to make a lot of changes because of the Premier League fixtures. All the other teams in the Champions League played on Saturday. We played on Sunday. If we'd have been given a bit of extra time to rest, do you think it might have been a different result yesterday?
I think it would have been. I mean, a few things I thought about the game. Firstly, well done to the Blue Moon family for stumping up and getting Alex a ticket. I think a round of applause to you guys.
Thank you very much, everyone. You're great. I really appreciate it.
I mean, I tweeted out during the game that I thought it was the worst half-hour performance since Mark Hughes left the club. I thought we were absolutely dreadful. And let's get this right, we're actually backed into a corner. And what I'm hoping is that history repeats itself. Why? Because last time we were backed into a corner and sent out a very weak team, we went out of Kiev and gave them a true walloping. Yeah, with that third goal right at the end. So hoping that history repeats itself. Would it have been a different result? Yeah, they've not helped us out one iota. Sticking us on at 4:30 on a Sunday evening when they know they've got the biggest game. Well, biggest game of any British team for the last couple of years on the Wednesday.
Yeah. What do you think about that, Alex? They're not making life easy for us, are they? And ultimately, they should be doing everything they can to make sure that the English teams go through, because what's good for City right now, we're repping the English teams in European football, aren't we?
Yeah, I find it really surprising as well, given that Manchester City, obviously, as Walter said in the Chelsea game, we put the kids out, we played 3 or 4 debutants in that game. You'd think that the Premier League and the FA would have learned a lesson from that Pellegrini is more than capable of putting a second-string side out. I mean, you look at people around the world watching in China and watching the United States. I think they tuned in yesterday as the only Premier League game that was on at the time. I reckon they tuned in and going, I hope we see the second side of Manchester City. I hope we get to see
mid-centre midfield.
Exactly, and it's surely that affects the viewership around the world. So surely it's in the interest of the Premier League to maybe save this one for another game. Pellegrini talked about in Italian football that when clubs have got Champions League and Europa League commitments, they play them on a Friday night, and that's it helps those teams compete. As an English football club, you have Premier League, League Cup, FA Cup, you might have Community Shield, your players might have pre-season tournaments playing for their national teams. It's possible that players in a year could play 60, 70 games. And you think you can't expect clubs to put players through that. Athletes in their own right, marathon runners, don't put themselves through that. So why would you expect Premiership footballers who play at the very top level to make that commitment? And something's got to give. And it didn't surprise me at all that Pellegrini rested players. And you can't help but think, have we played on the Saturday? A lot of people yesterday on the fan cams were saying we should have started Aguero and De Bruyne and taken them off. I think that almost certainly would have been the plan had we been playing on the Saturday at 12:45. You would have seen Aguero and De Bruyne get 45 minutes, as opposed to Aguero, who instead got a nice comfy drive down to Southampton and a nice crazy drive back up the other direction. To be honest, and we were 2 goals down and Aguero didn't come off. There was no intention of playing our big players, whatever happened yesterday. And it feels like, you know what, I'll lay that blame at the FA, not Pellegrini.
Wow, I've got to take all that in. Alex has just savaged the Premier League there. That's getting clipped up and put in on our social channels. Alex destroys the Premier League. What do you make of that, guys? Do you think the Premier League have stitched Manchester City up well and truly like a kipper? Or is it just part and parcel of the game? I'm inclined to agree with the boys. I think at this level, they should be doing everything they can to help us, and they've really just not gone out of the way at all. Okay, guys, putting that now to one side permanently, let's look forward entirely now to the next game. As Alex and Walter have alluded to, in Europe, we've just looked like a different entity anyway, so I don't think it should be as much of a worry. It's going to be an almost completely different team by the sounds of things. Let's look at their team. All week we've had the soap opera of will he, won't he, with Ronaldo. What do we think? Is Ronaldo going to be there on Wednesday? He's gone back into training. He's been doing some weird, revolutionary medical procedures with stem cells or something. What do we make of all this, Walter?
Well, I mean, I'm hoping he doesn't play. Why? Because Ronaldo is he's arguably the best player in the world. I mean, people will say Messi, but he's right up there. And we don't want to be facing that. We want half that team out. I mean, Ronaldo would have been watching the Southampton game and probably thought he could have come on with one leg and maybe done a job. So hopefully, I'm just thinking that Ronaldo, will he play? I'm hoping it's all a big soap opera, a big cover story, and he's out. But we don't know. We didn't know before an hour before the game until Owen Hargreaves had a chat with him, funnily enough. So fingers crossed he doesn't play, but I don't think we're going to find out right until the last minute.
Alex, what do you think? I think we're all surprised last week when he didn't play.
Yeah, because I think we expected Real Madrid, mind games, they're a club that are known for that sort of thing, and this player will play and that player won't play, and it's a completely different lineup. But actually, they were telling the truth completely. It wouldn't surprise me again if he didn't play, but, Ronaldo is the second greatest player on the planet, probably, the second greatest player who ever lived after Lionel Messi. And any club would do anything and go to every stretch you can imagine to get him fit to play in such a big game. Personally, I'm hoping that he has too much horse meat injected into his legs. I like the idea that he might grow a tail and get teeth like Ronaldinho. But here's hoping, fingers crossed. I think if he does play, I'd like him to play at half fitness, to be honest. I think if he's not going to be match fit, and I'd love him to play at half fitness and be off the boil and be someone we can actually forget about a little bit. But that said, Ronaldo at half fitness would still probably walk into most Premier League sides. So what am I saying?
Well, a genetically modified Ronaldo is the stuff of nightmares. I don't think anybody wants to see that. But will Ronaldo be there on Wednesday? Is it all a big hoax? Or will Real Madrid be forced into playing a half-fit Ronaldo because he's just what the fans demand there? Oftentimes, the fans get at that club. There's a lot of pressure on them. Okay, guys, finally, I've got to ask the question. Can we do it? Can Manchester City get to the San Siro? Are we going to our first ever Champions League final in May? Walter?
Oh, it's big talk, isn't it? It's big talk. I mean, looking back, it was 17 years ago since we played Wickham at home and we got beat. So, as a club in progression, as a club absolutely flying up the ladder like nobody's ever done before, you could say. Yes, we can do it. The simple reasons being, it's that away goal. The cat will be truly amongst the pigeons. Real Madrid are favourites. Let's not kid ourselves at all. But if you look at the quality throughout our team, I mean, people have talked about Ronaldo, and you're looking at their bench, and it had Rodriguez and Isco on it, and they'd walk into pretty much any team in the world. So we're not talking about any type of mugs here. Can we do it? Over 90 minutes, we get that away goal. Oh, Brady will be chanting, and his chant will come true.
Oh, yes. Looking forward to that. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I think you're saying that the team is full of strong players, but you did get the feeling that when Ronaldo's not there, they just seem to lose not just the fact that he's a quality player, but it's just because they're so used to having Ronaldo there, because he's basically never injured. I think they look a little bit lost, don't they, Alex? Can we capitalise on that if he's not there?
Yeah,
or if he is there?
He's talismanic, and there's that thing that every team needs a hero, no matter how big that team is. And they're a team of superstars, and they've got so many players, If Ronaldo didn't exist, we'd all still be terrified of Bale, as if, in the same light. Yeah. But Ronaldo is the main man at Madrid, and I think it's at every level. You take Aguero out of City earlier in the season, and we really struggle without him. It just doesn't seem to click, because for some reason, when he's there, we've just got more of an aura about us. So, yeah, if Ronaldo's off the pitch, it's an enormous boost to us, and it is a certain negative to them, despite the world-class players, your James Rodriguez and so on, that they can bring on to replace him. Can we do it? I think Walter nailed it. Of course we can. Real Madrid are the favourites. Of course they are. They've been here time and time again, and I think man for man, they probably have got a squad that could beat us. But this is football. If things went predictably, we wouldn't all be sat here, because the one thing that we all love about football is that it consistently surprises you. And stranger things have happened than Manchester City beating Real Madrid. All right, statistically, Madrid haven't conceded in the Champions League at home this season, which is not the best statistic going into this game. But I think Walter just said off camera, Real Madrid haven't faced Aguero this season. And we've got so much metal that we can take to them. There are very, very few teams that can take a front three of David Silva, Aguero and De Bruyne anywhere. And if Silva doesn't play, then Sterling's coming down the left. Sterling, who's been awesome in the Champions League this year, despite his less than impressive performance at Southampton. He's someone who could come and do a job. So you know what? We're not favourites. Let's do it. Let's give it a go. And if it doesn't happen, doesn't matter, because we made the Champions League semi-final and we're coming back next year.
Yeah, it's all about progression, isn't it? And every year at this club, we've been progressing a little bit further every time. And we're just on an amazing upward trajectory, and we should just all enjoy the ride, because next year, probably even bigger things are going to happen. So, yeah, I'm feeling that we can do this as well. Obviously, Alex has put it perfectly. Football, who knows what can happen. I personally think the fact that they've not conceded at home is a little bit different this time, because we're going there, they're going to be expected to score, they're going to leave gaps over the field, and we've got Kevin De Bruyne, and when he's there, anything can happen. I think he actually brings a counter-attacking presence to our team. I think we've not got that quick movement, rapidly progressing up the pitch when he's not there, but when he's there, you can get across the pitch, we can get the ball from our box to their box in 10 seconds and possibly put a goal in. So I think anything can happen when we've got the Ginger Prince playing for us. Now, guys, we're going to pick the team. So it's probably a little bit easier than it could have been in the past because of all the changes that were made at the weekend. So one of the certain changes that aren't going to be made is the goalkeeper. Am I right, Walter?
Yeah. Joe Hart, he is literally England's number one. The Southampton fans were chanting it the other day, and he kind of waved and then realised, hang on a minute, they're not actually talking to me. But besides that, we all know the facts. He's England's number one. And I can't actually fault him. I don't think it was his fault for any of the 4 goals. And he's arguably, people will be tapping furiously away, especially Man United fans, he's arguably the best goalkeeper in the Premier.
I tell you what, shot stopping, he's up there. And I'm a bit bored of hearing everybody singing the praises of David De Gea. He's a great goalkeeper. But Joe Hart, he's proved it in the Champions League. Who has David De Gea proved it against this year? Midtjylland. Joe Hart has stopped penalties from Zlatan. He's stopped in the past against Messi. He is a big game player, and I think he could be one of the main reasons. He is the reason that we're going into this with a pretty good chance. Going on to the back 4, what do we think? The wing backs are normally picked to themselves because Pellegrini likes to rotate them, Alex.
Paul, I've just got to say, keep your head down for a couple of days. That was a massive call he made on De Gea then. People get furious.
I know. Well, you know what? It's got to be said, Alex, sometimes. Games like this today, Joe Hart has proved it. I don't care what people say. Just because Joe Hart plays for Manchester City, he doesn't get all the respect he deserves. And I think at stopping shots, he's one of the best in the world.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. I think my defence of it will be is that we're really, really lucky in the Premier League at the minute. That, between De Gea, Hugo Lloris never gets a shout, and he deserves to be up there. Joe Hart, there are some ace goalkeepers, and everybody who's a fan of the one that plays for their team. And for me, I think one of the big benefits to Joe Hart is, as he showed in the first leg, he comes out in the big games. And because he's been at Manchester City for so long, he's got that leadership quality that's just given by experience. And he's the sort of player that if we go a goal down in Madrid, will hold his nerve, whatever happens. And that's, for me, is why he gets on. In 3 years, De Gea will have that, and we'll revisit the whole De Gea issue. But for me, Joe Hart is the man. Anyway, fullbacks. I think Clichy and Sagna were rested against Southampton, and I presume they were ace in the first leg. They've both been solid for, in 2016, and I think they've got to start. I'd love to see Zabaleta play, but for what he represents. But Sagna's form has just been sensational, and he's that little bit more defensively sound. So for me, Sagna and Clichy.
Yeah, Sanya's been one of the stars of our season, especially in terms of where he's progressed when he came to the club. I think nobody can disrespect Sagna at all. Walter, I'm going to assume that you agree with those two, and we're going to move on to the centre-back roles. What do you reckon?
I think he's going to stick with Otamendi and company. Just for the simple reason being, I think Otamendi had probably his best game against Madrid for Manchester City. He knows the Spanish game. I mean, I was looking at company, and I was looking at the headers he's doing in the box when he was going up for the corners, and he's getting pulled up all the time with the fouls. And that's the European game. They don't actually like to see somebody going right up on top of a player almost. Perfectly acceptable in the Premiership, but company excels. So hopefully he actually learns from that. But for the two guys in the back, definitely Otamendi and Vincent.
Yeah, okay. I think, there's a case to be made for Mangala in there, but I think judging on who he played last time, we defended well. Real Madrid didn't concede. I think he's going to stick with them. Okay, moving into midfield. We tend to play with two holding midfielders, Alex. Who is he going to pick for such a big game this time?
I think it was interesting that Fernandinho came off yesterday to be replaced by apparent midfielder Martin Demichelis. So I think we'll see Fernandinho, which I'm a big fan of. I think he's been awesome. I thought in the first leg he was one of the better outfield players, disrupted the play well and kept the ball well himself. Who do you partner him with? Yaya Toure, I think, has got to be worth a shout. I've been his critic all season, but, cometh the hour, cometh the man. He's exactly the sort of player that you can see scoring that 30-yard worldie. We're going to need a little bit of magic to break through a very strong Real Madrid side, and the man oozes magic. So I think there's an argument that you play Yaya in a defensive role. Do you play Fernando? Walter, you're going to have to help me out here.
Yeah, Walter, what do you think?
You're coming up against Real Madrid, and let's get it right. Their midfield is absolutely packed full of world-class players. We got to play it tight when we're going over there. I'm looking at Fernando and Fernandinho. Fernandinho has been absolutely Mr. Consistent all year. The only bad game I've seen him have, strangely enough, was against Southampton. But I don't think you can take too much from that. I think everybody around him was having a bad game. That was truly a bad day at the office. So Fernando, the Octopus, and Fernandinho, I thought was superb against Real Madrid, are my definite two starters in the middle.
I think I'm likely to agree with that, because I think if Yaya Toure comes back, I think there's still room for him in this team, but it will mean a bit of a rejig in the forward line. What about putting Yaya number 10, providing that bit of strength just behind Sergio, but that would mean pushing Kevin De Bruyne out to the left where he's not as potent. Alex? And we saw the difference for ourselves. It didn't help that we went to 4-4-2 in the first leg when Silva went off, but De Bruyne was at like 50% when he's out at left wing. And don't get me wrong, De Bruyne at 50% is still wicked, but he's going to have to be all guns blazing. And I think I'd put it out and say that actually you build the team around De Bruyne playing at 10. Do you play Yaya at 10? De Bruyne out on the right, and then Sterling on the left. But then Sterling played 19 and didn't look the sharpest. What are we
doing,
go with
Walter?
Are we making room for Yaya here?
No, I'll tell you why. I mean, anybody who watches any videos know I love Yaya Toure. And I was saying beforehand, he'd be a definite starter. But when I think about it, just picture this, lads. 60 minutes, which is his favourite substitute time, Yaya enters the affray. And he could cause absolute havoc. He's the big man, big game, and he scores big goals. He's scored most important goals for City over the last few years, whether it's in semi-finals, finals, at Newcastle, as everyone's quoted as saying. bringing him off the bench at 60 minutes just to absolutely wreak havoc is where I'd be at.
Lots to talk about there. Is Yaya going to be playing in the 10 role, or will it be KDB? You know what? I think Pellegrini could put Yaya there and Kevin De Bruyne out on the left. But for the purposes of this, and because we're not sure if he's going to be fit, let's say Kevin De Bruyne, who can wreak absolute havoc in that position, playing there. And Yaya maybe coming on 60 minutes, as Walter says, to players, a back line with full of yellow cards, Pepe, one tackle away from a red. Could be quite interesting. So out on the left is probably only the option of Sterling, really, if Silva's out. Sterling didn't play that well against Southampton, but we know that in Europe he's a different entity, Walter.
Let's get it right. Sterling was bloody awful against Southampton. But I'm just looking at, I mean, the one thing that he's done this year for us is he's played in Europe and he's performed in Europe. He was in the team of the qualifying rounds. So what I'd be looking at is he's got pace, which any defender is absolutely scared of. He also spreads the play wide. So if he's out on the left, they're looking at him and they're moving players around to actually cope with him and hopefully opening up little gaps for De Bruyne to absolutely weave his magic.
Okay. Alex, are you going along with that?
Yeah, because he's defending Sterling, because everyone was giving him stick, and I thought actually he had a couple of high-profile mistakes in the game, at key points, and that wasn't helpful. But I thought those were sort of his only mistakes, and his off-the-ball running yesterday was superb. And the stuff that you don't really pick up, just keeping an eye on him, just sort of checking on him, and every time he's thinking all the way through, and he looked just a little bit more intelligent than he has been at the start of the season. And I thought actually he had it wasn't a great game, but I thought he did a job. They had to do. So I'll stand by Sterling. I think Sterling should start. He's got all the pace in the world, and he's one of those players that fullbacks hate playing against because he gets lost. He's popping up in the corner. He's on the edge of the box. He's on the halfway line. He just gets lost. Defensively, he's not necessarily there. But if Gael Clichy's behind him and Clichy's got the discipline and knows that he's playing with Sterling, he can work with that, and Clichy will sit back a little bit more and let Sterling get on with it and get on with his own game. Personally, if Silva was fit, I think I would start Silva and go down a similar route of Yaya, having Sterling all that pace to bring on at 60 minutes when fullbacks are starting to get tired. But you know what? Raheem Sterling, I can see him being a bit of a nightmare, a bit of a handful. And one of those players that possibly he's the man that you take off for Yaya. So when Sterling's getting a little bit injured, and then you put De Bruyne out left, and that makes room for Yaya down the middle. So Sterling starts for me. Big into that, yeah.
I think with a past master.
Sorry,
like
did I just say big into that? I apologise to everyone. I don't know where that came
from. Yeah, I'm big into that as well. Walter, are you big into that?
Oh, big time big into that.
We're all so big into that, Alex. I think that's what the kids say these days, so I'm just going to go along with that. Yeah, I think with a pass master like Kevin De Bruyne or Yaya Toure in at number 10, hopefully Sterling can run into those gaps left by, they've got an oldish back line, I think, at Real Madrid. Maybe he can exploit that. On the right then, who we put in there? Jesus Navas?
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, one thing that you do realise about Jesus Navas is the absolute running he does. He runs himself into the ground. And people will say, well, his end product's not there. But for the purposes of this game, we need Navas just sort of covering back as well, especially with that midfield, the way it breaks forward. He's got the pace and the legs. As I described on the last video, he's like, in a good way, he's like playing against a 3-year-old in terms of you just can't quite get to the ball with this sort of little nipper running all the way around you. So defensively, I think he'll bring a lot to us. Going forward, that's his weak spot. But Pellegrini knows this, and who else would you play there anyway? So Navas, definite starter for me.
Yeah, I think the defensive-minded approach that he'll bring to the game is something that we'll really need against a team with such an attacking lineup. And that leaves us only with one man. Actually, no, I take that back. There's 2 men who we could have up front. Kelechi Iheanacho has been immense. He's one of the really good positives to take from this season. But as good as he's been, he's up against Sergio Aguero. What can the boy do? So Sergio Aguero up front. Am I right, Alex?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I saw a lovely statistic last night, and it was I pulled over on a very, very long trip home from Southampton, and I saw a nice statistic flash up on Twitter, and it was that Kelechi Iheanacho scores a goal every 86 minutes. And that puts, that we hear it all the time, that you hear about players go, every time he plays, he seems to score. Well, on form, you give Kelechi 90 minutes every week, he'll score you a goal every week. And that is awesome for a kid. And do you know what with Kelechi? I wouldn't mind seeing him get some game time at some point in this game. Before people blow me out, I think Sergio Aguero's got to start. That's a given, don't get me wrong. But with Kelechi Iheanacho, he's got no sense of occasion. I'm only just starting to get used to this idea that there are players younger than me playing for City. And I get nervous watching City, let alone playing for him. And Kelechi saunters on, and he just doesn't look bothered by the fact that he's in a stadium full of people, or he's being beamed out on television in front of millions of people. And that's a mark of star quality. And I could easily see Kelechi coming off the bench and scoring against Real Madrid, because I know that's a massive call, but it's the same with Marcus Rashford at United. They're big game players, and they're only young lads, and he's not got the experience to line up against Pepe and Ramos. But when he played in the first leg, he looked bright, and he didn't score, and the chance never came. But his possession play, he didn't look scared of these players. And you know what? I say, if those are your three substitutions, you bring in Yaya and Kelechi on, you could do a lot worse. And flip it around the other way. Real Madrid started Jesse, is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. Jesse. But it's they've played their kids, and they're not afraid to. And that's Real Madrid have produced some massive players in the past, as have Barcelona, and maybe have a little bit of faith in these kids. So you start Aguero, but don't assume that Kelechi's not going to get any game time unless there's an injury, because I think he could come off the bench and do a job.
Yeah, I think he causes havoc up front, and I took to Twitter yesterday and suggested that Kelechi Iheanacho could be the Golden Boot winner for next season. So don't hate me, don't at me, but I've put that out there. And if somebody's going to pull this clip up in a year's time, aren't they? But okay.
Why not? Why not? Tottenham fans were saying that about Harry Kane, and we said they were deluded. Look at Harry Kane, top of the league. Young players, if they've got the right belief and they're nurtured the right way. And I'll put it out there that Kelechi Iheanacho looks more this season than Harry Kane did last season, which makes me very excited. So yeah. Put it out there. Get your bet on. Don't. It's
out there. It's out there. We can't stop it now. Alex has joined me, at least, in saying this. Walter, are you going to put your reputation on the line? Join us, me and Alex. Remortgaging your house. Stick it on Kelechi Iheanacho to Golden Boot 2017.
I tell you what, if Harry Redknapp was the manager of England, he'd be trying to get him on the plane for the Euros. That's what I'm thinking.
Is there still time to get him an English passport? Let's see. But Sergio Aguero, Walter, just to wrap it up, any final words on this genius?
I tell you what, I was disappointed with him against Real Madrid. He seemed to be right off the pace, to be honest. He seemed to jar his knee in about the first 5 minutes, and after that, he was like Sergio light. He wasn't making a nuisance of himself. He wasn't actually getting into any positions. So I don't know what was wrong with him. So hopefully they've had a look at him and he's raring to go, because Sergio is just arguably the best striker in the world. He's in that top, to quote Harry Redknapp, top level of actual strikers, right up there. His goals ratio per minute, how he doesn't sort of walk away with the team of the year each year, is beyond me, because I know that City fans absolutely appreciate Sergio Aguero, and there's no way with a game of this magnitude that you wouldn't start the man. He's absolute world class. So yes, Sergio Aguero, and if he is having that off game, Iheanacho comes off the bench.
Yeah, it's stuff of dreams, isn't it? To get a young 19-year-old possibly playing. Scoring a goal to send us to the Champions League final. But, this is going to be a magical night, and weird things have happened in the past. Sergio Aguero, Kelechi is going to get his time, because unless we get some of that horse meat from Real Madrid, Aguero's probably going to have some injuries as well. So I'm sure he'll get his time next season. Right, guys, final word from you two before we finish. I'm going to need a prediction for you. Let me have it. Walter, what have you got?
I'm going for a nail-biting, squeaky bum time. 1-1. City, San Siro.
I've heard people say that Manchester City didn't win the league. We drew it that first time. So it'd be absolutely hilarious to see us draw our way to the final as well. Alex, what do you reckon? 1-1?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to go 1-1. Just as nervous as Walter suggested. I'm not going to go for the Navas goal, though, this time. I think it's gonna be someone with maybe a little bit more goal-scoring pedigree. So it's going to be a De Bruyne or an Aguero for me.
saving the Navas goal for the final, as we said last time. I think this could possibly see extra time. I'm going to say 0-0. Might go to penalties. Let's see what happens. Even squeakier bum time. Guys, if you've enjoyed this extra long preview, let us know. Drop a like on the video. Comment below. Have we got the team right? Are City going to make the Champions League final for the first time in our history? I think we're going to do it. We think we're going to do it. Guys, let's get behind the Blues. I'm looking forward to Wednesday. We're all pretty nervous. Come on, City. Subscribe if you're new. See you in a bit.